My name is Gabby. I am an adoption marketing manager with Adobe supporting Adobe Commerce. If you're attending from the previous webinar, GEO strategy and LLM optimization, welcome back. If you're just joining us, hello. We have the amazing Memo and Chris joining us today to answer any questions that you have regarding GEO strategy and LLM optimization. This is really just meant to be very open space for you to ask any questions to both Memo and Chris. And feel free to come off mute or type any questions you have in the chat. Both are welcome. So feel free to do what is most comfortable for you. If not, we also have some questions that we weren't able to answer from the previous webinar. So we'll lean on those if there aren't any questions from the group here. But thank you so much for joining, and I will hand it off to Chris and Memo.
I thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining. Feel free to ask any questions. And if not, we have a set of questions that were not answered on Wednesday, so we're going to start with them, but please feel free to jump in.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining.
All right. Well, I'll give you guys all a moment to just kind of settle. But one of the questions that wasn't answered was, how do you see the role of content structure evolving with the shift towards semantic CEO, particularly the use of entities and topical maps instead of traditional keyword targeting? In a landscape focused more on matching user intent than rankings, how important is semantics SEO search today, especially since it's often under-discussed?
I recall we touched a little bit on this one. I guess we didn't go deep. And my initial reaction is that, and as it was part of the presentation, SEO and the funnel as a whole is not disappearing. So I will not recommend just to ignore it, right? Like it's still important. If that's the specialty you are working in, keep doing that. I think the shift will be, and it was even mentioned in the question, like the change, the shift will be focusing more on customers' intent, right? Like rather than trying to just stuff the keywords for the ranking itself, leverage SEO also as your superpower for the first GEO endeavors, right? Like that will be the shift. Just keep doing the way you're doing, but focus more on the customer intent rather than just like the industry keywords.
Yeah, that's exactly what we touched on before, is making sure that your company is positioning themselves to be able to answer those questions, on a product availability, all your data points, anything that if someone asks a question to an AI agent about your product and company, are you positioned for it to actually show up?
Awesome. Thank you both. Some other questions that we have, a little bit open, but what is the current average traffic share of LLM versus organic search? Not sure if you guys would know this one, but this was a question that was asked.
No, I mean it's just like a guess. Normally, emerging channels start taking 1 to 3% of the share. I guess that's, and I have heard other professionals sharing that as well. That probably is not, like representing more than 1 or 2% for them or for their industries. But the trend is going up, right? Like, and as we mentioned, OpenAI is registering 50 million shopping queries, right? Like, so at some point, I guess the expectation is for this channel in the next 5 years to take at least 30 to 50% of your traffic.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think I commented before for us, like, and Memo is completely right. When it comes to these new channels, they just start to break in, but our company has these highly technical products across all three companies where a lot of people are going into the AI agents and they're asking specific questions about parts applications for their vehicles, and they're really looking for like information, which could potentially lead to a sale. But at this point, the AI agents are returning a lot of the information that they need to continue forward with their project journey on whatever they're doing on their vehicle. Um, so, in our case, it looks like probably around 20 or 25% of our organic traffic has kind of disappeared because they're never actually making it to that click to get to our website. So that's one of the things we're doing right now is making sure that we're measuring and providing that information directly on our website as well, and making sure all the data points are there for the AI agents to be able to read and then absorb, to make sure that we can actually get the trust of the customer from the AI agent, and then have them make that extra step to our website and encourage them to purchase.
Awesome. Thank you both. So I'll turn it over to the group just to open it up. Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to come off mute or ask questions in the chat. Um, Maximum invitation, minimum pressure is what I like to say. We're not scary, so no need to come off camera, but you're welcome to just turning it into to the group if you guys have any questions. Oh, from Manav. When optimizing for AI engines and LLMs, how do we strike the right balance between writing naturally for human buyers and structuring content for semantic AI scrapers?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the fun fact here is that it seems that the LLMs are rewarding the human-like questioning, right? Like they are, at least is what we are seeing, and that was part of the webinars. Like that's why I focus so much, Chris, and I focus so much on this Q&A pairing, right? Like because it seems that there's a lot of again rewarding uh, for on providing the type of content that will complement different use cases for your product. I don't know if I explained it myself correctly. So I think the right balance, to find the right balance, is to keep experimenting on that direction, right? Like keep structuring your content in a way that a client, even think of agents as clients as well. A client, if it's like a machine or a human, can get a good question for their intent. I don't know if that answers, but I will find the right balance that way.
Yeah, for me, so the approach that I would say, in my opinion, that we would take, striking the right balance is just continuing on doing what you're doing, by writing content for human buyers, right? So rich product data content, and then the second layer of that is making sure you expose the data points in your schema markup and everything for the AI agents to be able to actually ingest and process that. So those two things working together, like in my case, we have a product narrative around a Corvette part for your vehicle, uh, and we're explaining different things about the product, why you'd want to buy it, what year it fits on. So then translating those data points into like year, make, and model, warranty, what other applications can this be used for? And then those data points can be really easily ingested by the AI agents, and then also bridge that gap between the natural language where you're speaking to the customers that they're also looking at, and then giving them something to use to help them, bridge the gap between the two.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. So once again, we'll pause here. If there's any questions, feel free to come off mute. I always like it when people do that. But if there's no questions, we do have, I think, two more questions from the webinar.
Gabi, sorry, I would like to complement last question
Yeah.
because I think more than finding the balance, I will suggest to go back to the roots of content marketing itself, right? Like which premises was to not be invasive, right? Like I guess the thing with SEM or paid search is that it's a little pushy, right? Like and it's just the way it evolved, right? Like it's pushy, it's very sale oriented, while content marketing roots told us to give value content for the customer. So I think, as Chris said, right, like just keep doing that or go back to those basics, and I think that will take you to to a point where you can have more data and more substance to make your own decisions on which path to take.
Awesome. Thank you, Memo. We have another question from Paragi. How do you currently measure GEO success for an Adobe Commerce store? Is there a reliable analytics attribution method yet, or is it still largely directional?
Yeah, I think when we speak about attribution, even without geo in the map, I mean, we the industry have never figured out like a perfect attribution, and reason is that customer behavior can have different variations, right? Like, I mean, you go into the site and you do some research, but then you drop and go and forgot about it and go to your job and then do the same in another device. So attribution is always a hard topic to speak, especially to leadership, right? Like I know the situation and I know where this question is coming from. But I think, yeah, tools like LLM Optimizer and brand visibility can take you there. And eventually the whole analytics engine, right? Like I guess at some point with these tactics of like the whole UTMs and all that, I think you can have a good approximation. But my point of view is that, and hopefully at some point leaderships can understand this, is my point of view will be like, don't get so obsessed about the attribution. Read it as a whole system, right? Like rather than per channel attribution is how well my whole system is performing, given that I'm doing all these actions. I know it's hard because to assign budgets to different efforts, but again, right, like content marketing is not something that you invest on for necessarily growth. It's more for retention, right? Like so either way you need to do those efforts. I don't know if you agree with me, Chris.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think in our organization we have the same problem that we've started with, even a year and a half ago, right? Everyone was so focused on attribution models and what exactly is happening, where our customers are going. And it's very hard to communicate to leadership. Like, we're in this space now where all these different things are happening. No one really knows exactly what's going on. But if you, again, as we said before, stick to the basics about content creation, how you're usually serving your customers, like Memo had mentioned. It's about also retention and then other components of it with marketing to drive growth. I will give a shameless plug to the LLM Optimizer from Adobe, because that's what we're using right now, because that's how we're starting to judge and measure, comments, measurement, visibility metrics, starting to have answer quality and discoverability areas, and like finding the gaps that we're not doing so well on, and then also tracking the same market trends with our competitors. Like where are we sitting in this, AI world right now? How are we going to be able to better develop, GEO for our site's, platform? But in my opinion, like Memo said too, it is very largely directional right now. So you should look at it as a whole ecosystem that's working together, and not be so hyper focused on some of that attribution. Because if everything's working together as it should be, then the customers are going to be finding what they need, and revenue is going to keep going up and grow, and all leadership should probably be happy.
Awesome. That was a really great question. Thank you. All right. Once again, if there are any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or come off mute. One question that we weren't able to answer is, what would you say is the current conversion rate of LLM versus SEO, if you have that information?
I don't have it. Before I answer, I just want to apologize because I need to drop after this answer, and I will leave you with Chris and Gabby for the rest of the session. No, I have heard different stories. I guess brands are seeing what we call crazy conversion rates, right? Like with LLM, meaning you can have double-digit conversion, right? Like because it's a very intentional approach, right? Like it's a very intentional approach. Again, comparing to paid media, where it's a little pushy, and then you click through, but then when you land to the site, you are it's not what you are looking at. So I guess that's the reason. That is the rationale, and it makes sense to me. But I think we will be seeing solid conversions, right? Like I expect like a 5% to 10% conversion on the question, even.
Oh no, I think we lost him. Oh no.
I got eaten by that tree.
Oh no. Memo, are you there?
I think I am, or
Yes, you are. We can hear you.
sorry, I was saying that I expect like very, very good conversion rates, like double digit. But yeah, thank you for the time, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Memo. Go enjoy your daughter's graduation.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
All right.
The only thing I was just going to add to that as well is, I don't have like a real industry standard, but in the conversations that we've been having with other practitioners and other businesses, like Memo was referring to, like some of these conversion rates are, kind of crazy, upwards of more than 50 some percent if they make it to the right information that they need, because it is very intentional, right? Like he's saying, it's not an ad getting served to you. The customer is like querying an AI agent to get an answer for something that they're actually looking for. And if they start to trust that AI agent a lot, right? And then that builds up a lot of trust in what they are going to use to make their purchasing decision. So if you can get your company in a pipeline, in the right position to be able to answer those customer queries, as the customers start to use these AI agents more and more and more for every aspect of their daily life, whether it be for recipes, what TV show to watch, what watch should I wear with my outfit today, they really start to build this like interpersonal relationship with it. And then all of a sudden, they're trusting everything that they say about it, about some purchasing decisions.
Yeah, that's such a good point. All right. We have another question from Abdul. As part of an Adobe Commerce GEO strategy, are the existing product and catalog feeds sufficient for LLM optimization, or should merchants create additional structured data points specifically designed to improve how AI models understand and retrieve product information?
Thanks. And so this is exactly what I was speaking of before. Like you have your regular, product information that you are working on and that you think is sufficient for your customers to be able to make an informed decision about the products that you're selling. But what we're really learning is like there are other data points that need to be absorbed by the AI agents. So we have a whole plan and playbook here where we're laying that out. Um, in the schema markup, in the product pages a little bit differently, so it's easier for the AI agents to absorb it. I talked about it on the webinar that we did. One of the examples that was very interesting to me is that we have a gentleman that we work with that's really interested in watches, like really specific, like small brand watches that he collects, and he's been using AI to compare different watches and different things that he wants to buy and build like a wish list. And what's been interesting about it is, watches have so many different intricacies, right? Like the size of the crystal, the different kind of specifications that the watches have, where they were made, all sorts of different data points, and what the LLMs will end up doing is reaching out to applications built specifically to answer these questions about the watches, and all they're doing is absorbing the data points. There's not really a product narrative or anything about it. It's not talking about how the watch is classically made, or this is one that you wear for a certain occasion or anything. It's just absorbing the data that, hey, this is a dive watch, this is a pilot watch, this is your outdoor, summit watch, and here are all the specifications that you're asking for with it. And so seeing things like that, really relates to like our industry when it comes to like car manufacturing, auto parts, and making, is that you really need to be very specific in that data set, because you don't want to just risk everything to your product narrative and not having enough specific data points, but having them structured in such a way, and having structured data behind it in your regular catalog is really what I think what everyone starts to start moving towards.
I love that. And thank you, Manav, for engaging and sharing some additional details in the chat. Thank you, Chris. All right, we have, I think, probably one more question, at least from the webinar. And then, once again, if anyone else has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. If not, we'll probably wrap up a little early because I know Chris also has some commitments in a few minutes as well. Okay, so the question is, does Adobe have any recommended agentic AI workflows for e-commerce product content, specifically taking existing PDP? Oh, actually, did we answer this one? I think we may have. I'll continue with it. Specifically taking existing PDP content and enriching it for SEO, AEO, GEO, and LLM discoverability. Are there any best practice frameworks or Adobe native tools that support this process?
It's pretty much everything that I just said before, but as far as like native tools that exist, there are some coming that we've been exposed to in the championship program, and some might be available now for people to use. One of them is the AI catalog enrichment tool that we've been starting to research and put in beta here at my company. And so what that is doing is trying to take your catalog data and then optimize it directly for the AI agents to ingest, and deploying it directly on the CDN layer. So you never have to go back and start editing, how many ever SKUs you have on your product pages to make sure that that data is there. That enrichment tool that Adobe is launching should be very helpful to a lot of businesses. Um, in our situation, because it's kind of a bit challenging and even stressful, because we have over 100,000 SKUs, and it took us many, many years to write all the content for them, and we're adding hundreds of new products a month. So you start to look at, well, how do we accomplish this by scale? So there has to be some tools out there to be able to help us, because there's no way we're going to be able to do it all by ourselves. So you either need to hire more resources, or definitely start looking into the catalog enrichment tool that Adobe provides. That would be my biggest recommendation. I see that as one of the best pathways forward right now, even though it's still kind of in a pre state, and they're working with it. But it's good that companies like us that have really highly technical information are getting involved with it, because it'll give them and Adobe a good baseline to investigate and how to make it better.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. I think that looks like that's all the questions that we have today. But huge thank you to Chris, Memo, and all the folks who asked questions. Really appreciate you guys taking time to be here and engage. Chris and Memo did an incredible job. So if you didn't have the opportunity to watch the webinar, that is available on Experience League right now on the Adobe Commerce page. And yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. And we hope to see you in the next one.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. I really, really appreciate it.